Let's start by laying your strip on top of the template and using your needle tool. For every line that you see here, just score along that line. Now when you come to the end here, look for either a return arrow, which means you just pick up this strip and bring it to the next line to continue scoring. The page just isn't long enough to deal with some of the strips that are this long, so I just had to continue it along. Now obviously when you come to this icon here, which is a scissor, that just means to cut that strip at that length. So you don't have to worry about getting a ruler to measure everything as you go. It makes it a lot easier, don't you think? So let's follow along here and follow the outline of the letter to fold your scores. Now when you fold, because we are human, we can be a little off, so don't fold like that. Use your fingers to make sure your strip is perfectly aligned, because that's going to make gluing a lot easier. So we'll just follow the outline as we go. And there we have the outline of the letter A. So I've gone ahead and made the smaller inside shape, and for now I'm going to suggest that we don't glue these two corners together, and you'll see later on why. For this smaller inside shape, I'm going to suggest that we do glue that, because as a smaller shape it's a lot easier to just glue that to your surface without anything moving around. So I'm going to give you some tips on how I go about doing that. I just use a plastic card and apply a bead of glue in a straight line, and I'm going to kiss the glue. That's what I call the term. It just means to just brush up against it and run a bead of glue right along that edge. Maybe that's a bit too much. And then use the side of the card and align this edge to it, and then bring this side up against that edge, just so. And this way you don't have an overhang. It's not too little, not too much, just perfect. You're going to get a perfect corner. Now that we've finished preparing the strips, let's go back to the template. You'll see the letter sitting in the middle of 6 by 6 inch square outline. It's not quite in the middle, it's actually a little offset, a little bit higher from the bottom, just so that when you see it on a greeting card or on, a monogram, framed monogram, it's just a little balanced that way. The outline is here so that you can buy a sheet of scrapbook cardstock and cut it in half, and then fold that in half, and you've got a perfect 6 by 6 inch greeting card. So I'm going to suggest that you put some removable tape on the corners with the sticky side facing you. And then I'm going to suggest that you go to a sunny window and line these two up, and then press against the removable tape so it stays against your sheet. Then you take a dry pen and follow along every line and just trace and score into your cardstock. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come right back. Now that I've finished scoring the letter A on my card, I can remove my template, and it's ready to start quilling on. Now if you'd like to use the letter A on a size other than what you see here, this is the baseline, there's the center, and hopefully that's going to help you align it for any project you'd like to make. Now we're ready to glue the strips down to our card. The glue that I prefer using most is Aleene's Original Tacky Glue. I like it because it's super thick and it dries really fast. I like to put it in a fine tip glue bottle in a shot glass that has a tissue paper, a wet tissue down there, and so it doesn't dry up the nozzle. So I'm going to put the outside strip aside, and I've got a lovely oyster card from my trip to the UK. I'm going to be showing this because then this way you can see how much glue I'm putting down on against this blue color. I mean, you can use a yogurt lid, whatever you prefer, it doesn't really matter. I like to use a piece of plastic because then I can reuse it again and again. After the glue is dried, I just toss out that dried glue and use it again. So I deliberately put a thin stream like that so you can see how much I put down, and you can see the letter doesn't even get covered, and I actually don't mind that, because in this way I just kind of move it around as I go, and because it's such a smeared thin layer of glue, I don't get glue coating the edges of my strip. This way you don't have any glue blobs on the edges. So now for this outside piece, I'm only going to put the glue right on this one edge first. Maybe two. I'll do these two. So I'm going to start by just pressing down, making sure I'm getting good contact all around there. And if you're in doubt, you just pick it up and confirm. And the reason why I like to work with just two edges, or one side at a time, whatever suits you, is then you have much more control. See, this part is still easy for me to manipulate if I needed to. So I'm going to take this, I have some leftover strips here, and I'm going to take that leftover glue. Waste not, want not, they say, right? And I'm going to lift this edge up. I mean, you could use new glue if you wanted. So as you can see, when I work one side at a time, it gives me the flexibility to move the piece around without having to smear glue everywhere. The paper I'm using here is called Miton from Canson, and I'll leave a link in the show notes for you. I've cut it to 1/4 inch here, just because I like that depth as I'm quilling it for letters. I like this thickness of paper because it's a lot easier to handle than the thinner type of standard quilling paper. And since I'm running out of glue and it's kind of drying up, I'm going to use a new sheet. You don't want to dip your piece in glue that's been dried, because you get a bit of a skin on there, and then you end up taking the skin up onto your strip. And it's a bit of a magician act, right? You never let them see how you glue that paper down, because everyone kind of wonders, wow, how did you quill that piece? Or at least I feel like a magician anyway. It gets a little harder as you go down to the last piece here. And I'm going to apply glue to both of these because I want any flexibility to move that piece around and set it at the same time. I'm going to use this card here as a stopper piece to align this corner. Now I got a little bit of glue on this corner here. Not a big deal if you catch it in time. Before it dries. Now, I tend to prefer gluing even this corner to this corner, and I'll just show you how I go about doing that. Same idea as the kissing of the glue. It's just a small amount. And I tend to rub my metal instrument against that edge just to make sure, because my fingers are, you know, too big for that. And then you get a good seamless join. That's the letter A.